All right. We are recording.
We're recording.
Yep. Hello and welcome to the non-streamed version of Dungeon Duets.
Yeah.
The show where it's just me and her, and we play a game together and tell you guys a story.
Yeah.
Uh,
Welcome to the new space.
Yep.
Parts of it are the same. Parts of it are different. It's a work in progress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's good to... It's so weird. Like, it feels weird doing this in, like, a new space, you know?
Yeah.
Like, everything's just in a different spot. Like, there's room. Like,
Do you have more room? We're not just, like, in a corner in a tiny 7x5 room.
I know. That's probably all it really was, too.
Yeah.
Basically a closet.
Yep. So now we have some more space, and we're coming to you where we left off last time in Tiriel's journey. But before we get to that, is there anything we need to say?
I don't know. We've been sort of quiet on Instagram. It's kind of my purview. Working on some dice stuff. If you see this before I have my dice sale, I was gonna try to have dice up and on a dice sale this Friday. So if we get this uploaded before then, that's when that's happening, March 6th. We'll have a handful of sets. I'll be taking a break from dice making to get ready to, like, get married or something. I don't know.
That's dumb.
Right? Who does that anymore? Anyway, so yeah, keep an eye on Instagram. We want to work on more stuff. We'll have a little bit of a vacation, like work on some cool creative stuff and D&D concepts and things. So
Yes.
yeah, we're trying to build towards, like, building more creative, like, D&D resources and things, and we're just excited to have more time to do that and share that with you guys. So
Because now we're not working like 3 jobs.
yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, that's
So-
it. That's it. Back to the story. What we're here for.
Back to the story. So last time, Tiriel's journey, after she had done what she needed to do in the city of Vale, where she had cleansed the ruined city of Palavin, a city that was dedicated to other sort of ancient elves. After she had cleansed the city of a sort of lingering darkness, Tiriel waited around in Vale, trying to decide what to do, where her path would lead her, with now having completed her objective and not really knowing quite where to go. Her good friend Hugin ended up leaving her. He ended up going on a mission on his own, and her other friend Calpena, the wizard, was a little too busy using the portal Tiriel helped her create to go explore the Emerald Realm, the land of the Fae. And so Tiriel, not really knowing quite where to go, received some bad news in the interim. A Griffin rider by the name of Wade ended up delivering some pretty dire news to her. This was news of essentially the war front that was brewing in the near her elven homeland of the Merwood, where she had learned that basically the elven army had fallen to the paladin army of Sidonia. She had learned that her father, in leading that charge, had also perished, and that her younger brother Lindir, had essentially fallen comatose with some sort of strange magical illness. And upon discovering this, she was then told that there was someone waiting for her on the edge of town. Turned out it was her brother Gildor, who, with their father's Moonblade, challenged her to a duel to the death, which promptly ended in tears. Some good sibling moments. In which basically they had come to the conclusion after that they had both needed to honor their father's wishes, his wishes of Tiriel being his successor and the one to carry on the Moonblade. And so they went on an adventure, because now, in order to perform that ritual and that rite, they need to go to a temple of Ilseville, the moon goddess of the Merwood. And so with that, they needed to get back to the Merwood. Tiriel being in exile, though, that's sort of a tricky situation.
She proposed an alternate route.
She proposed an alternate route through the Emerald Realm itself. And that is where we left off. Tiriel and Calthena and Gildor had all made their way inside the Emerald Realm and had met some contacts of Calthena's, the goblins of Creekrook, a ruined tower where they had sort of made camp and had devised a plan to use a turtle.
Apparently they'd done it before.
The turtle, his name was Pan, and the plan was to make him big so they could sail across the ocean with him. This hinged on Gildor and Tiriel slaying a Hydra for them, which they had done. Gildor definitely alerted that Hydra by falling, essentially, sliding down a cliff. So they slayed that, and then they both moved on back to the Creekrooks and hopped on this giant turtle named Pan with their new friend Squee. Squee, who is a practicing wizard of a goblin. So, with that, I'm not quite sure how long they said it would take. Do you have that in your notes?
Ooh, no, I don't.
It takes a period of time, a nebulous period of time, where you, Gildor, and Squee, not Calthena. Calthena has sort of left this leg of the journey to you guys. No, my bad. She comes with. She comes with.
She'd waited in the tower for us to kill the Hydra, but she's coming with us to the
She's coming with you guys. She wants to see, of course, the Lapis Tree, which is where you guys are heading. You guys, you know that your destination is the Crystal Isle. It is the home of both the Dawn and the Dusk Court, and it is where you will find the Lapis Tree, the essential god, the chief god, essentially, to the elves. Although it is a living, breathing thing here inside the Emerald Realm. So, you are on the Turtle Pan. You are coasting along the ocean.
Turtleback.
You're on Turtleback. You're coasting along the ocean. Squee is sort of in the driver's position. And Calthena and Gildor are just sort of, sitting, resting in sort of semi-relaxed states. Calthena more interested in what's going on than Gildor, who seems to be just sort of quietly keeping to himself in his, and he's also not necessarily equipped for the weather. He's wearing all these leathers and stuff that just sort of, are insulating him a little bit too much. Whereas you normally just wear clothes, nice, flowy, long fabrics, and Calthena pretty much does the same.
I guess I'm picturing, turtle shells that have sort of, I'm picturing more like a tortoise shell, that have the big lumps. Is this a smooth turtle shell?
Oh, no, it's much like that,
It's pretty lumpy. There's good places to sort of, lean up against on this now giant turtle.
Totally, yes.
Cool.
Yeah, more like a tortoise shell, absolutely.
Cool. With little, ridges and
things. And bumps, this sort of little shapes are, they rise and have a texture to them.
Cheryl's gonna sort of, tuck herself down in between two of them where she can lean back next to Gildor. And
you're just staring up at the beautiful clear skies. Since you were departing from the summer court, the day is nice. It is spotless. It is beautiful. It is absolutely pristine.
Did they say how long it was gonna be?
It's gonna be a period of time.
I
would say, I don't. I think they said it would be a few hours, essentially. Not having the threat of a Hydra in the ocean changes things. But the Crystal Isle is actually not that far off the beach from where the Creekrook goblins were at. It's one of it's sort of near a cluster of isles in that region.
Yes, I remember that now.
It occupies essentially the island of Acclain in Baron's Eye itself.
The equivalent to it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I assume Calthena's close by.
Yeah.
Calthena?
Yes?
in spite of the circumstances, I'm excited for you to come here.
Ah,
It's... I don't know how to put it into words. It's an unusual place.
I mean, the entire Emerald Realm so far has been a very unusual and strange place. Is the Dusk Court any different?
The Dusk Court and the Lapis Tree itself are very different from what I've seen.
You know, I've only heard whispers of this Oberon, right? He's the one who is the king of the Dusk Court, correct?
Yes.
What is he like?
Well, Oberon is mercurial. Would be the best word for it. He is a creature of emotion.
Like most of the Fae that I've met so far?
Yes, not unlike that. But he wears his emotions and his heart and his everything he feels very much on his sleeve. And sometimes in rather unpredictable ways.
Interesting. Do you have any examples, or are you just waiting to surprise me with this information?
Oh, I mean, I could give you a number of examples. I was there for a very long time. When he found out that I was getting ready to leave, it was like watching a toddler turn into a tornado.
Oh.
It was like a temper tantrum, but on the scale of a all-powerful Fae king. He is fascinating. That's...
Right.
I don't know. It's hard to put into words because I was always captivated by it.
I don't have much experience with children, but that sounds like a nightmare.
It is, but always with the promise of something else. There was always more to learn from him and more to see beyond the bouts of frustration and dramatic flair, and I'm hoping everything's okay. Because I wanted to go back. And I'm worried.
I hear he's quite gloomy. Is he handsome?
I suppose. In a sort of... I don't know. Sometimes... It's very hard to describe. I certainly didn't mind looking at him.
I've found almost every Fae I've met so far to be in some way, shape, or form captivating to a degree. I told you about how I'd met the old Lion King of Summer, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Sounded like a rather traumatic experience.
Well, it was until, of course, I sort of stroked his ego for a bit, got him to calm down. No, it wasn't anything like that. You and your...
You're missing out. I'm just putting it there.
Anyways.
Yes.
He definitely... The way that his emotion would change his form. I think I know what you're talking about. It seemed that in his case it was a lot of anger, which, from what I understand, is not too uncommon in the Summer Court. Although I believe there's a more level-headed figure leading the Summer Court at this point.
I once watched Oberon fling himself to the ground in a fit of sorrow and malcontent and dissolve into nothing more than a pile of inky goo.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's
And
interesting.
Other times, in anger, it was more insect-like.
Interesting.
Yes.
Well, I'm excited to learn all that I can about this Dusk Court.
Hopefully we will not be there for too long, but learn what you can. And be careful what you agree to.
I will agree to nothing. I think you've told me several times that I should not make deals with anybody
Yes, no.
or anything,
No.
and I should not trust anyone or anything.
Yes. All those things are true.
Yes. I've been very cautious, Tiriel.
Good.
It's how I've remained alive over the months.
I spent my time here agreeing to probably far too many things. So,
Ah.
I think I learned from experience. I think I've made as many deals with creatures and fae here as I can carry at the moment.
What sort of deal would that be? Is that the one where you exchanged your soul for some power? Or exchanged
was
your
my
soul
soul.
for some knowledge, like how to open portals to the Emerald Realm?
No one said it was my soul.
Well, then what are you giving up?
I don't know that I know yet.
And that is frightening.
It was. But I didn't know. I gave up time. Gave up more years. When I would have come back, Oberon made me yet another offer. Asked me to stay again. Promised me just a little bit more knowledge. And I agreed again. And stayed for even longer.
So you just gave him your company then? You sort of sense the slight shuffle of Gildor sort of like repositioning himself as you talk about that. And meanwhile this is going on, you're still just sort of experiencing the gentle rocking of the ocean waves as they sort of collide with the giant turtle who is just
Tira's
swimming.
probably just sort of like laying on the turtle talking about all this, like reminiscing and...
You feel the sea spray every once in a while, sort of freckle and hit your skin. You sort of smell the salty ocean breeze. And you're just coasting along. You're not quite sure how long it'll take. I think he said. I think I said last time like it would just take several hours.
That sounds about right, but...
Right. So if you want to spend any of that time doing anything, preparing anything, or just talking to your companions.
Yeah. I'll continue to talk and sort of tell stories about being in the Dusk Court, and
Okay.
but also then spend a little bit of time, because I don't think... No, I have not done any arcane recovery. So
Oh, okay.
I'm going to do that and get a couple spell slots back.
Gotcha. Yeah. So you spent some time talking about your experiences in the Dusk Court and what exactly the Dusk Court is like. It's the area itself, like the actual geography of it, is a lot of. It of course has some of the sort of more mundane aspects of things you'd expect, like forests or swamps or things of that nature. A lot of eddies and valleys and things like that. However, it also sports a lot of these large geode-like structures that emerge and spike from the ground, creating sort of beautiful structures on their own, and inhabited by various denizens of the Dusk Court. You tell Calthena of this one place in particular called the Amethyst Archway, or the Amethyst... Yeah, that's the Amethyst Archway. Yeah, the Amethyst Archways. It's a series of many rock-like crystal formations of all of amethyst that sort of branch and stagger out, almost like little bits of arcs of energy that sort of arc in one way and then splinter off and then splinter off, and they keep doing that until they cover essentially miles of territory. And you were telling her about how those lead to the Undernight, this vast labyrinthine cavernous system that spreads underneath the Dust Court and eventually leads to the Palace of Fellcyl. You tell her these things, but in the back of your mind, you know that you're not giving them the whole picture. You're not giving them what you can't prepare them for, which is that the Dust Court is a place that is sort of imbued with the emotion of sorrow and anguish. It is not a place that people easily tread. Not without sort of having to encounter their own dark mirror image. So you tell her of the more amazing things, the more awe-inspiring things.
The time she spent stalking the song collector through the woods, and probably sort of rolls up her sleeve to the tattoo she has that's both her Blade Singer tattoo and the giant snake that wraps around it. That's sort of a nod to the myths of the song collector.
And still to this day, you have never caught the song collector. You have never, not for a lack of trying, but more so for a lack of preserving yourself, because the song collector is a very dangerous fae indeed.
She didn't really do it to catch it. She did it just to chase it.
So, you spend a lot of time talking with just Calthena. Gildor is pretty silent for this leg of the journey. And plus sort of going back to the place that you spent so much time in maybe leaves him feeling a little left out. Or, who knows, a little bitter, maybe. Yeah, so you also spend some time doing some arcane recovery. You spend about an hour focusing on your spellbook. Have we ever talked about your spellbook?
No.
Do you have any?
Yeah, as far as what it looks like and flavor-wise. It's very compact. And I imagine it was probably a gift, sort of her first spellbook given to her by, her father or mother, one of them, and very small and sort of wraps all the way around with this leather wrap that ties, and it's fairly simple but very broken in. The leather's supple and soft and just sort of tucks into a pouch on her belt that, because it's not very big, so sort of sits there and the second any sea spray hits it, just prestidigitation, the damp off of the pages.
Nice. Okay.
So,
yeah. Well, you spend some time essentially going over the configurations, the various sort of configurations of different spells and sort of the pointed shapes they make, and you practice them in your mind, the mental shapes that they have, some different than others. Do you spend time maybe thinking about
new spells?
New spells, perhaps?
Yeah, given that we have hours.
Literal hours of just rocking ocean.
Probably put a couple of I imagine it's probably got a couple of ribbon bookmarks in it, multiple bound into it, so you mark different spots in it. And so she'd keep a couple spells marked and sort of flipping back and forth and transferring the sort of, the incantations and the sigils and the symbols for a few different spells and trying to figure out how to combine them into one and how to make them do something new. And probably sort of practicing like the movements and how to, combine these two spells into one sort of movement and incantation that would do something new.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. You spend some time doing that. It's you see it on paper and you're looking at the two different spells or these several different spells that you sort of want to combine into one. And seeing it on paper is a lot different than sort of making it happen in your mental space. That is where wizards make their spells happen, is through their minds and the power of their intellect. And so you've never had trouble with sort of the rote memorization of spells that already exist and are easy to make happen. However, this is a new dimension entirely. You're trying to establish a new shape for a new spell.
While she's doing that, how big across is the turtle? Longest point.
Pretty big.
Just for like practice and to help her visualize it. Just like flipping through.
You at least have, I don't know. I'd say if we put this on a scale, I would say you at least have like, I don't know, about 20 or so feet lengthwise, probably 15 feet across. It's big enough for you guys to ride upon, but not like massive.
Yeah. So she's flipping through it and she's having a hard time like
think like Appa,
picturing
except bigger.
Yeah, I'm picking it up.
Okay.
Like I said, just sort of seeing it on paper and having a hard time figuring out the configurations. And sort of holding your spellbook in one hand, just gonna like sort of tap Gildor with it.
What?
Will you do me a favor? Will you just go sit on the other end of the turtle?
You're
not in trouble.
Oh,
no.
Okay.
I just need... I'm trying to figure this out.
Right.
And I need to be able to look at someone about as far away as I need them to be to figure out how these pieces work together.
Interesting.
So just sit over there and I'll stare at you for a little bit and see if I can make this work.
Fine. He gets up and sort of saunters over to the end of the turtle. What are you gonna do?
Well, I do want to like sort of focus on that and try to use him as someone to focus on and think about, like the steps of this.
Yeah,
sort of walk through.
He walks up to the very sort of crest of the turtle shell, where it sort of forms this little ridge that then begins to where the turtle's head is just sort of peeking out above the surface of the water. I'd like you to make an intelligence check.
Okay. Just
add your
intelligence
roll
check.
me d20, add your spellcasting modifier.
My spellcasting modifier.
Not with your proficiency.
Okay.
Just your intelligence.
So just an intelligence check.
Just a flat intelligence check.
Okay. 22.
22?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Natural 17.
So you start with the beginnings of a Misty Step. But as you do, Misty Step for a lot of elves doesn't really require a whole lot of configuration in the air or anything. It's more of like a body movement themselves. Especially here in the Emerald Realm, where you feel like your closeness to the sort of shadowy paths which you chart through, which you quickly dart through, to sort of link two spaces closer together. And then you're there in front of him, in front of Gildor, and now you've sort of the plumage, essentially the dark smoky plumage of the Misty Step spell that sort of erupts, and where you pull out from, you form that into a smaller, more minor version of shield. You did only go about 10 feet though, so not quite as far as you'd want it to. You're just a little short of where Gildor's at, but you're pretty impressed with your first attempt at the spell that you've had on your mind for quite some time.
Sort of like holds it there for a minute.
Sorry, No, I'm not talking to you.
Jeez, wow. Anyway, while you're
Anyways.
fiddling with your music.
I'm fiddling with my music. It's not working.
Just stands there, sort of holds the shield part of it for a minute.
Yeah, it's a sort of shield collected out of the almost the like phantom remnants of.
It's
The
like she
little bits
sort
of
of like
Shadowfell
pulls a little
that you
bit of
pulled.
the like Shadowfell with her,
Yeah.
like to protect her as she walks out.
It's a little bit of a cloak, sort of, but one that is made of a material that could potentially ward off attacks.
It doesn't take the shape of like Tiriel's shield, like is normally sort of this like little fan of blades. Like is what it looks like. They're
Yeah.
And like this one, as she sort of misty steps, she just like pulls it in with her.
Yeah,
like,
you sort of wrap it around
Yeah.
and cloak yourself in it. You currently don't have your blade in hand, but you could imagine the applications of such a spell.
Such a spell. She looks at Gildor. Almost figured it out.
Is this something new that you've been working on?
Something I've been thinking about. Haven't really worked on it yet until now.
Interesting. What is it supposed to do?
It's supposed to be something more defensive.
Ah,
So rather than just protecting yourself, you could sort of step in and protect someone else. Be there sooner. I had it on my mind before, because, you know, it's rather hard to hit. And I fought alongside people who were quite a bit easier to hit. And then you came back, and given what had happened, it just got me thinking about what we could do if you could just be there sooner.
I'm going to go sit back down now. You can tell that sort of the turn that the conversation took. It's definitely not the one that he would have
No.
liked. Again, you and your brother's relationship currently is still fractured. It's certainly better than where it started very recently, with him trying to kill you. But currently, it's still in a very fragile state. Where sort of some of the things that he says and you say, you guys just can't connect
Tiptoe around
sometimes.
each other.
Right. The Hydra fight was probably the closest you guys had come to bonding in a very long time.
Someone had to trip and fall down a cliffside.
It wasn't me. Don't look at the camera like it was me. That's exactly what you did. Are you seeing this shit?
I like how it's you that feels personally attacked.
'Cause it is! You meant me!
Oh.
You don't look at the camera when you're like, oh, this guy failed his stealth checks. Oh, wait, but it wasn't me, because it was actually you. You rolled that shit.
It was Gildor. Gildor is his own character. He's
Gildor's
the one who
me!
ate shit.
You were looking at me!
Anyway.
Anyways.
My brother's mad at me.
Your brother's mad at you.
Always.
Oh, no, not all. Well, yeah.
Pretty much always.
Yeah, pretty much. And you're going to the place that reminds him the most of how you left. So, I will say that because of your performing this, how many spells did you regain back? How many spell slots?
I had only taken back 1 3rd level and 1 1st level.
Okay. How many second levels do you have?
I have 2 2nd level spell slots available at the moment. I've used 1 of each of my spell slots other than 4th.
So then did you just regain a 3rd one?
No, what I have here is what I had before I did that. So I have I've used 1 3rd level, 1 1st level, 1 2nd level. So, however you want to make that work.
Well, did you just regain a 3rd level?
Yes, I did just regain.
But
a
did
third
you
level
mark it
spell
off?
slot. Yes, I'd used 2 before.
Oh, you'd used 2.
Yes, what I have is what I have after my arcane recovery.
So either spend 2 first levels
Okay.
or spend 1 3rd level.
I'll spend 1 3rd level.
Okay. because that is definitely a sort of
Yes.
it will eventually most likely turn out to be a 3rd level spell. So, you after all of that, and sort of lounging about, talking with Calthena more than your brother, and sometimes you exchange words with Squee. Squee's an interesting character. Him and his goblins were very recently, uplifted from their state and their lot in the world as being just sort of mindless, unconscious monsters hell-bent on destruction and sort of cruel madness.
Now they're out here blowing up turtles.
Now they're out here making turtles big. Yeah. They were...
Doing the Lord's work, making turtles big.
Oh my God.
Sorry.
Wow. Only to tell you of your Lord and Savior Pan, the giant turtle. He can give you an interesting story where him and his lot, especially the Creek Crook goblins, were recently sort of kidnapped into the Emerald Realm. And they were done so by a mysterious figure, which you know the name of. You're not really acquainted with, but this character named Godfallow, who is the King of Spring. He is the Fox King of Spring. And Godfallow pulled goblins into the Emerald Realm in order to kickstart their evolution.
Soup them up a little bit.
He put them through a great test where he essentially sent them to the island of Labyrinth here in the Emerald Realm. An island which you've never heard of, and as far as you're concerned, doesn't exist in the Emerald Realm. And the goblins there had to go through essentially a series of trials in order to discover themselves, in a sense. There they had discovered more about their roots and where they had come from, and they've gained access to magic, as well as just a greater degree of intelligence and consciousness, essentially, and are able to, at this point, pull away from their sort of darker impulses. And so he definitely tells you that among the other goblins who have sort of evolved are ones with straight up darker impulses. But for now, they're all trying to figure out how to get back to the world. And him and his Kree Crook fellows seek to create communities for goblins in the world they come from, Baron Zaya. Yeah, just that's really their aim at this point. He's also tells you that his source of magic is he stumbled upon the grimoire and the old tower of a wizard named Athan Seek. Athan Seek was an ancient wizard who studied in the Emerald Realm for quite a long time. So much so that his age at that point was far past the typical lifespan of really any elf. However, Squee can't really tell you much about Athan Seek except what he's discovered in his grimoire, and that he was sort of a long time ago a part of some schemes that had happened with Godfallow. But that is the grimoire that he literally has strapped to his hip.
Do you think I could look at that? I'll do it right here.
Why?
Well, because it's clearly, based on what you've learned, got a lot of interesting knowledge in it.
That's why I keep it firmly strapped to my hip.
I can't go anywhere with it. I will look at it right next to you, and I promise I won't do anything strange with it. I mean, I'll let you look at mine. I don't know that it has anything that yours doesn't have.
Give me a persuasion roll.
Natural 20.
What? No way.
Yeah, you can look at it if you want.
All right, cool. Natural 20. To honor the natural 20, although that wasn't going to be like a really high DC thing.
Yeah, it's
anyways.
a 23.
He's like, well, I guess it can't hurt. And then he hands you his grimoire, and you hand him yours, of course. And as you open it up, you're seeing this is all in essentially all of the writing is in a sort of a precursor language of the Elvish that you have now. When the elves had just pretty much exited the Emerald Realm and came into the world of Baranzaya. This is like essentially Eld Elvish, or like the equivalent of Old English to us. So yeah, it's written in that. You can definitely sort of glean bits and pieces of it, but it's not something you've spent much time studying or learning how to sort of translate. But there are some spells in here that you don't recognize, some that you're sure could bend and shape reality in weird ways.
Sort of flipping through it. You've managed to read this.
I wouldn't say read, more like intuit.
Can I tell, like, what he's figured out?
Yeah, so Squee has figured out, let me look at Squee. He's figured out a lot of sort of low-level stuff. I have stats for Squee. I have stats for Squee! Somewhere? Nope, that's the wrong one. There we go. Boom. He's learned a lot of sort of evocation spells. And you see that he's definitely, those seem to be the easiest for him to grasp. And in fact, evocation is probably the easiest for any wizard to grasp. The mental shapes that are required for evokers are pretty simple mental shapes. You're fairly familiar with them, being able to cast shit like Fireball. But oftentimes...
Tiriel doesn't actually have Fireball.
Oh, you don't?
No.
Oh, wow. You've never even learned it?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well...
I get it. Yeah. It's just like, I don't need that shit.
Any of the other evocation spells oftentimes require your mind to be in a configuration where you have one sort of small piece of your mind linked to essentially the rest of your mind. Where that small piece of your mind is essentially like the pressure cooker. That links to your mana reserves, your internal magic reserves. And it's a small sort of shape in your head that essentially is pushed through whatever configuration you make with your hands, the sigils in the air, into this sort of wide outburst where all this pressure is sort of let to escape into this much larger space. And that's how typically evocation spells work. So he, he's learned things like Firebolt, Burning Hands, Mage Armor, Scorching Ray, Alter Self, Shield. Definitely a pretty good selection of spells, considering the fact that he's a goblin and he's
who
picked
just
up
recently gained higher sentience, let alone magic.
and has also found this this wizard's tome, this ancient wizard, elven wizard who, as far as you can understand at this point, is probably was a far greater wizard than even most of the wizards of your time.
I guess while I'm paging through it, is there anything I can pick out that I can easily tell what it is? That I could maybe help him figure out? Point out some things that would help him piece together, the parts of the Elvish he may not understand?
Only the spells that you have. Only the spells that you have that you recognize, because it's easy to decipher the diagrams, the actual drawn runes, and sort of the glyph language of spells.
Is Dragon's Breath in there?
Dragon's Breath is in there, because that's an evocation spell.
Can I help him figure out Dragon's Breath?
Totally help him figure out Dragon's Breath. You would need to spend some time doing it.
Okay. I will spend the rest of the turtle journey trying to teach Squee, point out the parts of this so that he can piece together a Dragon's Breath.
All right. Cool. Do you actually plan on performing the magic?
No.
To show him?
No. I'll walk him through parts of it, but not actually cast the spell.
Okay. Got it. Because I would say that would significantly quicken things is if he could see it. But if you show him it in your book, as well as potentially provide the material components for him to copy it down himself.
Does he have to copy it down again?
No, but that might help him learn it faster.
Well, I don't have the resources for that, so.
You don't?
I mean, I could, but,
You don't want to pay for this little goblin's, like, tuition into Dragon Breath School?
no. I want to help him figure it out. He's out here turning turtles giant. Like, he can figure out a way to make 100 gold he needs to transcribe this spell.
Oh my gosh. Now you're turning turtles big.
You can just be out here selling big ass turtles.
Yeah, what does he my help for? Alright, well, I tried.
Like, I will hold his hand, like, all the way up to the finish line, and then he can finish it out himself.
I would say, how long does it typically take?
It takes an hour per spell level, I believe.
So 2 hours. I would say you guys definitely have enough time.
Okay.
By the end of the 2 hour stretch, he performs Dragon's Breath, and he casts it on himself real quick. So then he just breathes out this plume of fire that just, you see the sort of, those like sort of withering lines of heat that are generated around this cone, and he's just blowing out this fire, this little goblin. And as soon as he stops and you see the sort of like smoke curling from the edges of his lips, he's also just smiling really
Dude,
widely.
it's totally like high fives. Goblin.
Thank you. Hey.
You're welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it.
I like that one.
If there is something I can help you with,
Personal favorite. You know,
I would love to return the favor.
just thank you for getting us here.
Oh, well, of course. I mean, you did do us a favor for me to drive you here. I mean...
Yes, but I don't need anything. Just,
okay.
you know,
All right. For sure. Fine. Okay.
keep ferrying people around if they need it.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Total taxi.
Let's see. What level spell are you able to access?
4th.
4th?
Yeah, I just got 4 common spells.
Okay. He does rip a page out of the book.
So he's like, oh my god, what?
What? And then he hands it to you. And he says, you can have it. Perhaps it'll help you.
Usually how spell books work, but alright.
Just take it. Don't even worry about it.
Can I tell what it is?
It is, I will say you'll have to take some time to figure it out.
Okay.
But it's a spell that you don't have.
Cool. I'll just sort of fold it up and tuck it into my own spell book and very carefully like press it in between the pages because that was a really old spell book. You stripped a page out of.
Oh yeah, that was like nails on a chalkboard deal. Just seeing that happen, and he's just like totally casual about it. He's just like, yeah.
I look at Calthena. Did Calthena see that?
Yes, and she's horrified. Calthena has this stricken look on her face where she's just like
very carefully.
You see
like,
her balling her fists
rolling up my spellbook and tucking it away, like out of the damp now. Like I'm even more worried about it.
And as Calthena sort of gets up with her balled fist, and you can tell she's about to strangle her. Before you even put your hands up, though, you guys now come into visual range of my music's not fucking working.
Just play it from. It's the internet connection is not good enough to keep it connected to that all the time.
Well then, how about we take a pause? We're going to take a pause.
You have.
A better view of the Crystal Isle, the island where the lapis tree roots in. So looking at the lapis tree from afar, you see this massive, sprawling tree on a landmass that seems barely able to contain it, like a ship ready to list. The tree spirals high into the sky, with branches that extend far into the horizon, and a canopy that seems to lazily beckon beyond the boundary of the world, swaying with intelligence. You see roots that plunge into the side of mountains and deep into the ocean, and you see massive, roaring waterfalls cascading down its length, wreathing the world tree in sun-kissed rainbow rings that sparkle bright on the dawn side and take on a much more vibrant, sort of shifting color tone on the dusk side. Because as you get closer, you also notice that the sky is beginning to shift, and it's split out from the middle of the lapis tree. It seems that the sky is split on both sides of it. You're getting two different sides of this place. One half is beaming with the light of dawn, splitting apart the rousing sky with a piercing light, and the other half is the starry black and sprawling violets and oranges of dusk. There are blooms high in the branches of the world tree. On the side of dawn are these bright pink and white flowers, open towards the newborn light. On the side of dusk are creeping bells of purple that dangle in the waning violets of the encroaching darkness. And this is what you see. You've been here before, so it's not a new sight to you, but it's still amazing every time you see it.
Mm-hmm. You probably didn't often see it from this angle.
Oh yeah, no, probably never.
You've seen it up close, maybe from a short distance offshore, just exploring.
But then,
never
a
far
short distance
enough,
offshore, you would have been looking up at a massive tree.
not
you
far enough away to see the whole entirety of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, Calthena is stunned silent the whole time. Squee as well. This is probably not a routine sight for him either. And Gildor has a sort of passive look on his face. You're not sure if he's astonished or not, but you wouldn't. It would be hard for you to put it past your brother to like not be like a little tickled by this sight.
Mm-hmm. Gildor has a strong resting bitch face all the time.
Totally. He has a mad poker face.
When the tree comes into view, Tiriel will probably move back and sort of settle in like between them and just like I'll sit and watch it like come into view.
Okay, yeah. You sit and you watch as the world tree begins to loom closer and closer until it's looming over you despite the fact that you're still miles from the edge of the shore. So, at some point, Squee looks to you expectantly.
Yes?
Where are we landing? I'm driving, but I don't know where to land.
The dusk side.
That side.
The darkest side, yes.
Yes. Is there a specific cove or beach? Is there a harbor, a pier? I'm not a very civilized goblin just yet, but,
You're getting there.
Thanks.
There should be.
So
I don't
you know
exactly where, but I can point you in a rough direction.
you know of the Amaranth Coast. The Amaranth Coast.
Okay.
Which is essentially a stretch of shoreline
That a turtle
on the
can
dusk side.
walk up onto.
Totally.
You're not gonna dock a turtle.
Yeah. Turtles normally dock.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah.
Face.
That's probably the best place for you guys to make land. And so you sort of direct him to that location. It's currently on this side of the side that you're sailing on, because you guys are coming from the north.
Island.
Yeah. You guys are coming from the north side of the island, and the Amaranth coast is on the north side.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you make shore onto this sort of very gem sparkling beach where each grain of sand seems to almost sparkle in a way that the stars in the night sky sparkle. And the beach itself sort of has this this more gray pallor to it, almost like it was sort of like dust or gravel of some sort. It just sort of takes on this color, and that could be because of the light sky constantly being the way it is or something, or maybe the composition of the sediment being different, but you're not quite sure why. But yeah, so now you are here on the Amaranth Coast.
Here.
You Gildor and Calthena depart. You guys hop off a pan. Squee looks back at you and says,
So, you sure you don't want me to do anything for you? Do you need me to come pick you up at a certain time?
No, this was a one-way trip.
Right.
But just, I don't know. Be careful. Thanks for the ride.
Of course, and you too.
If you ever need a way back to Baron Zaya, I'm sure Calthena will find a way to get a hold of you.
Me and Grizz, we can discuss that, of course. Sure. She sort of looks at you like, what are you doing, Tiriel?
I'm setting goblins loose on Baron Zaya. It's totally fine.
No problem at all. All right. So you promised the goblins an escape.
There's more you can do for me if you make it back. So.
Well, I'll let Grizz know the good news. And good luck.
Thank you.
Don't die.
Smooth turtle sailing.
Yeah. I mean, he's pretty good at what he does. All right. See ya.
And you watch as he casts a spell on himself. And you watch his little gills sprout from the side of his neck, and Pan just like spins around and like sort of flap, 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 just like his flapper sort of kicking back all the beach and the sand as he just dives into the ocean with Squee riding on his back.
Love it.
They
are adorable.
Yeah, you. So you know that you are on the Amaranth Coast. However, this poses a little bit of an issue because you're familiar with also the stretch of wood that stretches on for miles along the Amaranth Coast. This stretch of wood is also where creatures like the Song Collector has resided in the past. So you know that trekking through it could be quite dangerous. You have trekked through it before, but each time was a risk. Each time was literally a sort of a life-endangering endeavor. You know that the Twisting Wood is a forest of baleful gloom, where even the trees conspire to prey upon the weakness of any creature passing through. So yeah.
Do I know of option A? Any creatures, denizens of this wood, that would help us? Option B, how far it is to circumnavigate the wood, and if that's an option. And then C is balls to the wall, we go through it. So...
you're not sure about circumnavigating it. That would probably take you a long time, and you're just as likely to cross through other dangerous dust court
that I don't know as
terrain.
Well as I know this one.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, you've spent a lot of time in the Twisting Wood, so you probably could make your way through it just fine. It's your companions you're worried about. So yeah, you definitely probably could make your way through the wood, like do option C essentially, because option A is not really an option. There's a whole lot of creatures in the Twisting Wood, but they're more likely to take advantage of you rather than to help you.
Gotcha.
And they would probably even be quicker, not necessarily to attack you, not a whole lot of hostile things that are just ready to just fight a group of people who come through their wood, but they're always trying to get something. They're always trying to always trying to get something out of a chance encounter.
Oh. At the same time I was doing my arcane recovery, can we assume Gildor was doing the same thing?
Yes.
Because I forgot about that.
Right, sure.
What level is he technically?
Does
Oh,
it say?
It says 9th level.
Yeah.
Damn, son.
Yeah.
Damn, son.
One.
Okay. Cool. I will do that accordingly then. And I'm going to look at something else. Oops. He has greater invisibility, but not just invisibility.
That's right.
So that doesn't help. That only lasts a minute, and you can't.
Greater invisibility lasts a minute?
Yeah.
Lasts an hour.
Concentration up to a minute.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Regular invisibility lasts an hour.
Ooh.
Yeah.
But it allows him to, like, attack and stuff.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, which is great, but it also only applies to him versus invisibility that lasts an hour, and higher level slots target multiple people. So.
Right. Well, I would say if you wanted to, although can't do it right now, but for the sake of the fact that he's a wizard, has a spell book, he probably has other spells inside of it. So if we want to go over and sort of decide what that whole spell book looks like, give him, a total amount of spells based on his level, intelligence modifier, things like that.
Things he has prepared are another story, and that's
right.
We're not going to sit for
not right now.
A long rest for him to prepare other spells.
Totally. Oh, are you looking for spells in particular? I don't have the monster manual. Which Calthen is it?
It's right up there if you want it. Yeah, I'm just double checking what any of us have for things that would aid us in navigating this. So if she has anything relevant, that would be helpful to know.
Right. Well, you have a very handy staff.
I do indeed.
With a find the path charge
have a
or
very
ability.
handy staff.
Ability to cast a very high good spell. A very good
Card
spell.
here, and I have a pseudo dragon who's just been chilling with me.
You have a pseudo daddy.
I've got a spider who's just been chilling with me.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We forgot all about that.
I know. I have my menagerie.
You do have a menagerie.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no, she's not in this one. She's in Volo's guide.
You fool. That's
Me?
okay.
Oh. What?
Yeah. So that's kind of my my backup. Okay. Now that I've finished shopping my character sheets and allies, Tiriel will probably sort of stop for a few minutes, just like probably just sort of like running some of the weird gemstone sand through her hands. She's the conjurer. Enchanter.
Well, you know what? She might. No, yeah, she's the enchanter.
Oh, yeah. She has invisibility. And she has not used any spells today because she didn't go with us. So if she's willing to burn a 4th level invisibility to turn all of us invisible for an hour.
Okay. That will dwindle my more powerful resources, but I don't mind if it helps us get through. Is this wood really as dangerous as you say? It looks fairly normal to me.
Looks harmless, doesn't it?
A bit.
Part of its, I don't know, deception.
Ah.
It's Tiriel's just sort of like running like sand through her hands, and there are a lot of things in here that will devote all of their energy to leading you astray.
Ah.
They're not out to kill you, mostly. They're simply out to...
Tear you down.
Yes.
Ah.
Slowly and efficiently.
Wonderful.
Yes.
I'm fine with making us all invisible if that helps us get to where we need to go. Do you know the path, however?
I know it well enough, and if we get lost, I have a backup.
Okay, all right, fine. Well, then, are we going now, or shall we take a rest, or...?
I mean, I don't know that I need a rest.
I'd prefer to stretch my legs at this point.
Sitting on a turtle for a very long time.
Yes.
Gildor, I assume you're ready.
I'm ready to go.
Ready to be invisible and do your absolute best to be sneaky.
Are you still going on about that?
Yes, it was not that long ago. That was just today.
Yes, I'm
Thank
ready.
you.
Let's go.
Thank you. I will let Kathena cast that. I'm gonna... Do I need to have the staff in hand to cast Find the Path? Or if I have it on me?
You
Is that
need
enough?
you need to use a staff.
Okay. Cool. Then I will leave it on my back for now and navigate with what I know first and pull the staff out if I'm at all. I guess, can I sort of set like a precedent for if I'm at all unsure about the path, I will use it before we get lost? Or should I just use it? I'm just gonna...
So here's a couple ways we can do this.
Okay.
Because you know that as soon as you get into the Twisting Wood, it's going to try to fuck with you.
Mm-hmm.
All right? It's going to try to... the trees are literally going to conspire against you to lead you in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm.
And lead you towards the heart of the Twisting Wood, where you aren't going to have a lot of fun.
Gotcha.
That is their objective. However, you, having traversed these areas a long time ago, I will allow you to essentially make an intelligence check.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of remember the path. You can do intelligence, or you can apply, nature. You can apply survival. I would say you could apply nature, survival, perception. Any one of the skills essentially that you could use to navigate, or just use intelligence to essentially remember the way. I will say if you're doing it solely off of memory, I would say you could add your proficiency bonus to the check.
Honestly, I think I'm just going to use the staff.
Okay.
Like...
However, using the staff, you may want Kathena to turn you invisible after you use that. So that way you can focus on the spell.
Yes.
Not lose your invisibility because you cast it.
Yes. Yeah. Just sort of, as Haley assesses the risks of this, Tiriel sort of walks up to the edge of it and sort of, walks back and forth a little bit, sort of looking at where she thinks the path should be, like where it should start. It's just like, I don't want to lose time fighting the woods. I think it would be best if we just used all the resources available to us.
That's fine with me.
And I'm going to pull out the staff, cast Find the Path.
Okay.
And I'm focusing on like all the way to like the palace or whatever.
Real quick.
Yes.
Give me a perception test.
Okay. 18.
As you pull out your staff and as you focus it and use it to cast Find the Path, the blade, like it did once before, sort of twinges again.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the sort of surge and uproar of anger, that sort of floods from your shoulders down into your arms and almost makes you a little numb. It's just more of like a little, like a familiarity as you use the staff. So you definitely notice that, and then you cast Find the Path, and you feel your staff tugging you in a direction towards the twisting wood. What place are you trying to get to?
I'm just going to use sort of the full potential of the spell to go not just through the twisting wood,
To go to Fellcyl.
all the way to Fellcyl.
Okay, got it.
Just in case.
Got it. All right. So then, yeah, you are being pulled through the twisting wood. As
sort of signal to Kalthena to turn us invisible and tell her to just hold on to each other.
Okay.
And don't let go.
Okay.
And how heavy would you say Miles is?
I don't know. He's a mechanical construct made of, brass and metal alloys and stuff, and copper and whatnot. He's the size of like a small dog, Honestly, he's pretty heavy.
Gotcha.
But he can sort of fix himself to anyone as sort of like a backpack, and do so. And he can also cloak himself. Remember, he's excellent at stealth.
That's right.
He can sort of blend into his surroundings.
Before we go invisible, I'm gonna point at Miles, point at Gildor.
What? No.
Just wear him as a backpack.
No.
I am carrying way too much.
Kalthena
Kalthena is not strong enough.
He can move on his own. I've seen him
We
do
will
it.
be much faster.
I don't
if
want
you
to. Oh, my
carry a
back.
spider.
Nope.
If he climbs up on his own, will you be able to get him off?
Get him. What?
I'm gonna how fast can Miles climb up on him and become a backpack?
Miles needs to make me a dex check.
Okay.
What'd you get? No fucking way. Okay, good. Yeah, I with my 16 beat your net one. Yeah. Gildor definitely does not let Miles get on his back. In fact, Miles fumbles around in the sand for a moment and then sort of just looks at you all sad and like...
He's no fun at all. Fine. You can be sneaky. Maybe don't be as shiny for a little bit.
And then he just like slowly, his whole color and stuff dims down as he enters stealth mode.
Cool.
Spider stealth mode.
Spidey stealth.
Yeah.
Cool.
He will now have advantage on his stealth checks, for sort of engaging that function of his,
Cool.
his
Yes.
his design.
Yes. Nice.
Thanks.
Now we can all be invisible and literally hang on to each other and make our way through.
Okay. Yeah. You guys hang on to each other. Gildor is sort of at the end of the chain. He's hanging on to Kalthena's hand. Kalthena's hanging onto your hand. All right. So.
I want Kalthena to hang on to like my pack.
Okay.
So I have a staff and I want a hand free.
Got it. So as you're traversing through, you begin to remember bits and pieces of the places that you're traversing through. It comes back to you a little bit at a time, but soon the scents are sparking that familiar feeling of nostalgia. It bubbles up from your stomach. This sensation like you're touching a soft drape over the true shape of something else, something fleeting. As you are moving through the twisting wood, you feel the sort of ominous aura of a lot of the trees as they begin to shift very subtly in a way that is hidden to the eye, but a way that you know because of that sort of that glooming aura, that hateful, spiteful malice of things that are happier than the wood. And as you sort of traverse through, I need you to go ahead and make me a wisdom saving throw. You can do so with advantage.
Just roll both of these. 16 and 17. Nice.
Nice.
Wisdom save. That's a 22.
22. So, no, you say to the wood. Not gonna happen. You traverse through without an issue. Every attempt, every sort of slithering root that sort of shifts to get into your path, every time that the trees sort of band together to form these sort of tight walls, intraversible by you, you find another path. You find a bit of a glade or a little creek to trek beside. All the sort of natural elemental pathways that keep you going where you need to go. So the Twisting Wood does not claim you this time, nor is it ever. As you're moving through, I'd say about 35 to 40 minutes go by. You're making excellent time with that check. And the fact that you've burned a spell slot and you've used Find the Path. You're making excellent time. Gildor and Calthena are definitely keeping up with you. They have no problem. They're not lagging behind at all. And eventually you come to a part where through the intersection of crisscrossing branches, you see an animal figure standing on a knob of rock and root. It seems to be peering down at you through this sort of gloomy darkness. And just to sort of layer some atmosphere here, throughout the Twisting Wood, the sky at first, as soon as you arrived on the beach, was that sort of sparkling twilight. And even now, it's still at sparkling twilight, but it's more violet. It's much more like vibrant too. It's not true darkness at all. You can see everything. It's supposed to be. It's similar to darkness, except everything has this vibrant quality to it. It's purple, almost, but it's this sort of very bright, malignant purple. But as you're traversing through, you even see some all these sort of motes of different things, essentially, refractions caught in the air that sort of give it this sort of starry night appeal. But yeah, you see this animal figure standing on a knob of a rock and root, peering down at you through essentially this crisscrossing section of branches, off in the distance, about, 20 or 30 feet away. I would say more like 40, actually. It's a good distance. Enough to where this sort of foliage in between you obscures them a little bit. So if you'd like, you can get closer to sort of make out more of its features. But for now, it's a four-legged sort of woodland creature.
I'll keep going closer, but not so far that I veer far off of where the staff is trying to
The staff is taking you directly through its path.
Oh. I'll approach slowly.
Okay.
We're all invisible still.
Okay.
And see if it seems to notice us directly, because...
Go ahead and give me a perception test.
Okay. That's 12.
12? Okay, that's good. So yeah, as you get closer, you notice that this creature has the shape of a stag. But his hide is black, and where hooves should be, he has these large humanoid hands. Their fingers are sort of curling tightly around the edge of the rock that he's standing on.
Like, on all 4 feet it has hands? Ooh, that's weird.
The antlers are twisted. They're not like the typical antlers of a stag you might see in Baranzaya, or a deer you might see in the Merwood. They are curling downwards towards the ground. And they seem to radiate with a darkness. Although within the darkness, within the shape of his horns, they sort of radiate this darkness where they almost seem to lose a bit of their edge. But inside of them, you see these nebulas of bursting color, and stars that shift and change based on the position that you're at. And then the eyes of this creature are unmistakably the eyes of Oberyn. But you know they're not the same. And in fact, it comes to you now that you know this entity. And this is Bleakmire, the reversed horned. He is unmistakably the darkness that Oberyn left, he had sown so long ago into this wood. It's essentially the carcass of his old life. with a new form. And he definitely notices your presence.
Do I know that this is something to be avoided? Or that it's just sort of an aspect of, like, is that something to be avoided or something to be sort of respected and...
Depends. You know that you know this entity again. He is the carcass of Oberyn, of an Oberyn of a long time ago, and he's taken on a new form as sort of the aspect that represents the twisting wood in its entirety. He is something good made wrong. And as you get closer, you hear his voice ring out, echoing, quietly, almost like a whisper against your neck. And he says, "You'll come to these woods again, Tiriel Vas Enric. As it was with your first arrival, you will find only pain and sorrow here. The foot treads the shadow that you so readily embrace. Are you here to spurn the lesson again? Or are you here to leave behind a life?" I mean, Calthena stops cold, and she, like, as you go to take another step, she just tugs on your, like, she doesn't tug on your back, like, forcefully. She tugs on your back because you go to take a step forward, and she's just stunned in a place. Yeah.
Have I personally encountered this creature before?
Oh, yeah. He's talking to you with recognition. You guys have encountered before, and a long time ago, you know that essentially he requires some sort of sacrifice. He says leaving a life behind, but he doesn't mean an actual life. Mm-hmm. Maybe he means an aspect of your life. Maybe he means something that you're not ready to give up. It could be abstract, it could be tangible. You're not quite sure. But he is the embodiment of that sort of putting down, putrid aspects of yourself in order to move on. Something that Oberyn probably had to do plenty of times throughout his life, and this is just merely one of those creations that have spawned from that.
I'm gonna keep walking forward. I'll drag Calthena with me if I have to.
You're gonna walk past him?
I'm gonna take another step out towards him.
Okay. You feel her grip let go of you as she sort of lets you proceed forward.
He says, "You have brought friends for me. Things that I might have."
No. These ones are mine. I've not been gone long.
You've been gone a very long time.
Yes, and I'm going back to what I thought I'd left behind.
You will find only anguish here. There is nothing for you. Why do you embrace this?
Because we'll find anguish everywhere. Can't be avoided. Merely embraced and understood.
What is it that you choose to leave behind?
He's just sort of standing up on this sort of gnarled knob of rock and root. And he's doing so, and you see the sort of the encompassing twilight azure sort of atmosphere that permeates the wood, despite the fact that most of the time the sky is not even visible. And this sort of purple vibrance gets more intense around him. And his eyes, again, are unmistakably the eyes of Oberon. And he's just looking at you and searching you.
I don't know yet what the cost truly will be. But go back to a cage.
Your freedom is what you choose to leave behind as you come back to this place of sorrow and anguish.
Perhaps. And yet, here I am.
You may walk freely towards your cage.
And he sort of steps down from the rock. You see,
Take a step back and like feel for the invisible Kevin.
yeah, you find her, and you definitely like sort of have to like grab at like her clothing and just sort of pull on her a little bit, tug on her. But he sort of uncurls his hands, each finger just one at a time, just pulling away from the root as he steps down with these humanoid hands. His antlers turn downwards. You see the shifting sort of starscape along them. His hide as black as night. And he looks at you one last final time with a smile that's rare for Bleakmire, but a smile nonetheless. And then he turns around and wades off into the twisting wood. You then begin to move on towards the Amethyst Archways, which eventually you arrive to not too long after your encounter with Bleakmire. And because you're using Find the Path, I won't make you roll for anything. However, what you're seeing is these sort of crystalline arches that spread into miles of staggered pathways that twist in and out from one another. They very rarely form any sort of uniform path, and that's what makes traversing them so difficult. But each archway sort of arcs out from one another like these splintering branches almost. Like from the top down, if you looked at it, it'd be like sort of like arcing electricity across like a body of water or something.
Nice.
You know that somewhere amongst here, which you're being led to because of this very convenient spell called Find the Path, you know that you will eventually arrive to the subterranean entrance that goes down into what's called the Undernight. The Undernight is this sort of labyrinthine expanse that starts out pleasant enough at first and then becomes terrifying. Again, something you're all too familiar with. So yeah, and as you're moving through here, you can just hear the gasps and stuff from Calthena. Gildor remaining passively quiet, but nonetheless probably taking in the surrounding scenery.
I assume the invisibility will wear off.
It's worn off by this point, yeah.
Yeah.
And how long does Find the Path last?
Oh, concentration up to a day.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
okay, you're right.
Yeah.
Cool. You're
I'm
gonna
gonna
get
make it.
there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. That's what I wanted to double check. And I was like, just my God will lead me.
Yeah. Wait, which one? All right.
Yeah. Once we're not invisible anymore, I'll sort of let go of people and I'm less worried about losing anyone when we're not all invisible to each other.
Okay.
But still, stay close.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll say that you have no problem getting to the entrance to the Undernight. It is this massive yawn in the earth that, as you look down into this tunnel that just sort of goes at a very steep grade, just down into the earth. It's just lined with crystal geode of all types, of all different shapes and colors. And Calthena at first is like, "Wow, that's amazing. I feel like you could make a fortune here if you just took some of this stuff."
You want to try taking some?
No,
of this?
no, not at all. But I'm just saying, it looks very like there's a market for this somewhere.
Yes.
Look, I'm trying to make jokes because we just saw a creature that was very alien and definitely made me want to lose this morning's breakfast.
Tiriel just sort of like sighs and like lets out the little bit of like horrified shiver that she's been containing.
Okay. Got it.
Just... He is alien, but therapeutic in a sense.
I don't know how that makes any sense. I think I'm really now finally getting to know you better.
I lived here for a very long time.
I can see that.
And she looks at Gildor sort of like an apology in her eyes. And she's like,
Gildor seems to subtly, just sort of shrug it off.
this place became my home. With all of its darkness and mystery and it is a dark place.
I can tell.
And it is frightening, especially where we are headed. But there is nothing to truly be afraid of in here. It will test you, but it just is what it is.
Well, I vastly prefer the summer court, of course. It is a lot more pleasant, and there are trees that blossom with fruits. There are things that grow in the ground, and there are creatures that enjoy things like ale and nice banquets. This place is...
There are things that grow here as well.
I haven't seen one piece of pickable fruit in that entire forest that we went through. Nor did I see anything living, pretty much, besides the trees.
Well...
And the thing we saw. I'll take your word for it, Tiriel, but... Like I said, I'm getting to know you better. That's for sure, certain.
Well... Don't lose yourself in here.
As long as I have you, I don't think I will. So, you guys begin moving on into this tunnel system, right? Or did you want to do something else?
No. Move on into here.
All right, you move on. Find the path means that you find the path, and I love it. It's so helpful. Just be like, we're going here.
We're just getting
We're
there.
doing this thing.
We're just doing the thing.
I'm not gonna make you roll to deviate to do any shit. It's good. It's good.
I mean, we can get there. There can still be scary shit on the way.
Yeah. So you go, and at first it's a fairly nice trek. You do see critters and creatures that sort of live in these crystal caverns essentially. And you're going through the whole time, and there's a source of light that you're not sure where it's coming from, but it's similar to how how even though you're walking through essentially nighttime in the Dusk Court, in the Court of Twilight, there's still this sense of vibrancy to everything. But the darkness doesn't necessarily permeate in all these places. Or that for some reason your eyes adjust in a way to where you can just see through this darkness and everything takes on a new life. But as you're going and going, eventually the darkness does encroach. And it does get darker and more palpable until eventually you're walking in pitch black. Your dark vision doesn't cut through the darkness. Neither does Tiriel or Kathanis or Gildor's. You're all just walking in pitch black. In pitch black in a way, you know how like you wake up at night sometimes and you're like walking to the kitchen or something, or you're walking to get a drink of water to go to the bathroom, but it's really dark. You know, so dark that your mind is sort of projecting onto that darkness, and you're like seeing shapes, and you're like, oh shit, that's a thing, and then your eyes adjust to the darkness, you're like, oh, that's nothing. You know?
And you're like, the counter's right there, and then you're like, there's nothing there.
No. Your dress forms scare the shit out of me sometimes. I'm like, look at a dress form, I'm like, oh my god, there's a person there. You know? It's kind of like that. Like, your mind projects the easiest thing that sort of makes that shape come alive. It's the same way, except it's almost like the darkness is this sort of reflective pool, which at first isn't so bad. However, I would like you, Gildor, and Calthena to all make me wisdom saving throws.
Why don't I roll for myself and Gildor since I have those stats?
Got it.
You can roll for Calthena.
Oh boy, don't blame me if she fucking fails.
That's okay.
Don't look at the camera and blame me.
What am I
Oh,
rolling?
nice, not bad. A wisdom saving throw.
Oh, dope. That's a 21 for me.
Okay. You need to beat a 13.
Gildor beats it too.
Okay.
Saving throws. That's a 19 for him.
Okay, Calthena got a 14, so that's a partial success. For you, as you're walking through, you've learned to keep your mind still in this place. Very, very still. You know that the slightest sort of projection onto this darkness will make that darkness come alive. And will make it haunt you. Until you lose yourself in this subterranean system so that the darkness may devour you. However, you knowing this, keep your mind still. I'd like you to roll me 1d20.
Okay. Just straight roll. That's a 19.
19. Ooh. Interesting.
Okay.
Okay. So this won't be bad.
Okay.
But you feel the blade. You feel it not necessarily go cold, but it seems to go almost still like you are. Its anger is quelled for a moment, much like it's doing the same thing that you're doing. Like it is trying to keep calm and clear. And out of the corner of the eye, out of your eye, you swear someone's walking next to you. And this person is Lithe. At least this sort of intuitive hints that you're summoning in your mind of what this figure is. But every time you look, you don't catch a glimpse. And this figure is Lithe. They're not someone you recognize, but they have the form of not an elf, an Eladrin, but one that sort of takes on the gloomy, spectral nature, much like Oberyn does. And this is sort of coming out of the corner of your eye, but you can't quite catch it. You can't quite picture it. You don't get any facial details or anything like that. But that's sort of constantly sort of bugging you. But they're just walking alongside you. And do you have something?
Yeah. I feel like that sort of like stillness. Tiriel wouldn't like let herself get distracted by focusing on that.
Okay.
Because that's sort of, you know, she doesn't want to sort of lose her, that sort of still calm by like pinpointing, focusing on anything. But
it's still there in your peripherals.
it's still there. But more so that sort of calmness, I don't know if this makes sense, like sort of reaching out to it. Like she's sort of spreading that awareness out to it without looking at it, just sort of feeling that in that sort of calm state.
What do you feel like Tiriel's intuition is telling her about this thing?
That it knows this place too. That it knows how to traverse the darkness. And that it's something to be learn from almost. But that's like something to be sort of, yeah, learned from and observed.
Okay, gotcha. You sort of
Just let it be there.
out of the corner of your eye, you sort of study it to an extent. Your brother, for a moment, he falters, and you hear him whisper from behind you. You hear him say, "Lindia, no," and then he's like, "No, wait, it's not real." And then his breathing becomes steadier once again after that moment of panic. From behind you, even further back, you hear Calthena. You hear her go, "Father, is that you?" "No, Father, where are you going?" "You're leaving? But where?" And she just goes on like this for a while.
Is she still moving?
She's still moving.
Okay.
She's still following along with you guys. But none of you can really even see each other. You're just linked, again, by holding on to one another.
Miri, the pseudo-dragon, has blind sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna sort of telepathically just tell her to hop back to Calthena.
Okay.
And just sort of anchor her.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, she's with the partial success, she's following behind, but she just keeps talking in the darkness. And it kind of gets to you a little bit. It slowly breaches.
That's about the point that I send the pseudo-dragon over there.
Yeah. It slowly breaches your steady cognizance, your mental fortitude, and but it's the point where it's like, yeah, it's becoming a little grating. However, you send Miri back to at least give you more peace of mind. You hear Gilder every once in a while just like, "Why won't she shut up? I can't stand it." And then you have to sort of, well, what do you do? Because he's getting irritable as well about it.
He's right behind me, and then Calthena's behind him.
No. He's in the back.
He's in the back.
She's in between
Oh,
you two.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. I will... Tiriel will just sort of like... Honestly, like, sort of just close her eyes and shift Calthena in front of her. Like...
Okay.
And she's gonna just hang on, like, put her hand on Calthena's shoulder.
Okay.
And then just reach behind her and, like, smack at Gildor.
Okay.
Just
Ow! What did I do?
be quiet.
I'm quiet.
That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna keep walking and just sort of pushing her in front of me.
Okay. Gotcha. You keep pushing her. She stays on course. She rambles on for a little bit longer, but eventually it dies down until finally she's like, "Oh, Miri, thank you." Just seems to acknowledge the presence of your pseudo-dragon as being one that is meant to be sort of stabilizing. So yeah. Eventually, though, you come to another cavern. You see twinkling starlight off up ahead. Before we get to that, I'm going to take a break.
I'm gonna take a break.
Because I got to pee. All right, we're back.
We're back.
We're back. Okay, so when we last left off, you had just sort of started seeing these glittering motes of starlight in front of you. And you realize this is not starlight. In fact, this is the waypoint that lets you know you're on your way to Fellcyl. In fact, you're very close to it at this point. This is the Spindle Star Cave. And those lights that you're seeing, those droplets of starlight, if you will, are hanging strands of essentially glowworm spit.
Tasty.
Yeah. Yeah. So giant strands of these dangling, bioluminescent glowworm spit. I guess spindle is a better word. Silk, if you will. So yeah.
At what point does the sort of pacing me presence fade?
Oh, it fades at about the time. I mean, it faded a while back, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was there for just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I guess when it faded, did I notice a shift in the Moonblade?
No. I mean, it's sort of, it has kept its same sort of
Stillness,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, almost like you sense that the spirit isn't even there anymore. That's how still it is. It's not like it was, where it was raging and angry and sort of had this weight that was wearing you down.
Pushing at it. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, you also know of a creature here, he's like the doorman, pretty much. He's here to greet you and let you inside. You know he is a dusk court fae by the name of Techi, and his appearance is very much, he is sort of squat. He's about the size of a halfling. He wears this wide-brimmed hat, and he has these large yellow eyes that are pupilless and just sort of glow, almost like bug eyes. But underneath is this sort of wide spinning, or like wide mouth that spans like his entire face, going from edge to edge, having this very caricature-like feature to it. But when he's not smiling or he doesn't open his mouth, you can barely see that there's a line there for anything. His skin is very dark, not like in tone. It's like almost as black as the caves you just came from.
Shadowy.
Yeah.
Sort of entering into this point, is this where it begins to be less, I don't know. I'm imagining it begins to feel a little less oppressive.
Yes.
Like this is a sort of reprieve.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. This is like the save point. Like you just reached the save point, and you can now continue with your journey. You're no longer in danger.
Cool.
Yeah. Like I said, this is sort of the door. You know,
Cool.
You know that you're about to enter Fellcyl when you reach the Spindlestar Caves.
Then sort of once we're out, still like with her hand on Kalthena, she'll just sort of like pull her around. She's like, "Are you all right?"
Yes. You should have warned me.
It's hard to
Nope,
put into
it's
words.
okay. It's okay. We made it through. We can just put that behind us, and we should continue on.
You sure you're all right?
I'll be fine.
Okay. Sort of let go of her, look around, and see if I can see Techi. Up or around.
Go ahead and give me a perception test.
Okay. No. Well, it's a 12.
Okay.
Oh, plus 8.
Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you notice eventually you hear this sort of padded footsteps of this creature, Techi, who, has this like sort of long robes that just sort of dangle and billow out and sort of drag behind him. And, they sort of come up to his neck to cover any sort of body features that he might have. And he just looks at you with these big, yellow, glowing eyes. And he says, "Tiriel,
It's so nice to see you.
It's nice to see you.
What are you doing back here again after all this time?
Just passing through, unfortunately.
Oh, you're not passing through if you're heading to Fellcyl.
Well, more or less.
You know his liege will want to keep you here.
Yes, but I have places to be.
Huh.
Does he know we're here?
Oh, well, I've not got any word, but, well, he doesn't tell me everything, so who knows?
Is everything all right?
Well...
No. I suppose you're not going to tell me. I know how this works. You want to maybe announce us? Let us in?
Yes, of course. Follow me, just like old times.
And you follow Techi through the Spindlestar Caverns. You guys are like wading and weaving through these large hanging strands of just pure like white starlight. It's this silk almost. Every time you pass through or just gently brush against it, it quivers and shakes as you press on it, and it just sort of creates this a little bit of a tone to it. It sort of seems to ring out throughout the cavern. You guys progress forward, eventually coming out through the other side of the Spindlestar Caverns, and you are now officially in the Duskcourt Palace. You are in a giant crystal cavern. Although all of the crystal above you and all the crystal that sort of makes up the uppermost shell of this expanse, you're having a hard time telling it from the night sky, the starry night sky. It very much seems like it, but you intuitively know you're very deep underground. However, it looks like this, and you see this sort of expanse of this, gloomy twilight lit garden and areas of trees and nature and falling waterfalls coming from in the distance. Again, all the colors here are very vibrant. It's dark. You're in pitch black darkness, but you can see everything. And so everything is sort of lit up in that way, where it has this color to it. It's very strange. The colors themselves are not like the standard sort of colors you get in sunlight. They're just a slight, more like vibrant shade of everything else. But like sort of like how sometimes you can switch all the HUD colors in a video game, to be like a different, a different selection of colors that some people have an easier time seeing, especially for people who are like colorblind and stuff. It's kind of like that. And as you're progressing forward, you see the palace.
It's designed for things we see in sort of like infrared dark,
right? Something like that.
Weird dark vision.
Yeah. You see. It's pretty much like all neon flare. That's really how it goes. It's like as if everything was lit up by fairy fire. But yeah, you see Fellcyl. You see the palace itself. It is this giant structure of... it looks almost like this sort of like black, spiky, like Gothic cathedral almost. Has these like sort of blackened spires and different towers that make up sections of it. And then the front of it, though, has these giant two double doors that Techi leads you up to. As you can see, though, you are noticing a suspicious lack of one thing in particular. First of all, Oberon's sister, her name is Chrysia, and you know her very well. In fact, it's part of your subclass. You danced under her for endless hours, endless amount of time, as she would just twirl and dance herself, seemingly endlessly up towards the cavernous expanse.
Probably in these gardens, and that's
in these gardens.
Probably something that Tiriel takes a moment, like before we get all the way like to the gates, and just stops here and
Teji stops and looks back at you and says, what is the matter?
It's very tempting
No.
to just stay.
No. Oh. I thought you were going to ask me questions.
No.
Well, that's
I
good
don't
too.
have any more questions.
Well then,
It was easy to stay, and it's hard to resist that urge again.
you know, Sire will want you to stay. He won't want you to leave. That is for certain.
I know.
You can stay if you like. I certainly wouldn't mind the company. Someone might tell me things every once in a while.
I'll tell you all sorts of things.
That would be lovely. Let's go. And then he sort of begins hobbling again. But you notice a suspicious lack of her, Crescia, who is this large dust court fae. She is the sister of Oberon, and she is essentially a butterfly. She has these large dual set of gossamer wings that spread out from her back. She has these large oval eyes that have no pupils and are all just one sort of color. They're all essentially insect eyes. But then she has this long, splendorous figure, oftentimes covered in very thin veil, a very thin veil of fabric that is often white but glowing with this sort of soft, icy sheen to it. And for the longest time that you've known Crescia, you've never once touched her. And that is because it is said that if you touch her, she dies instantaneously. A few trickier or more naughty fae have probably naughty have probably tried touching her, and probably have some have succeeded, and she has promptly crumpled into a pile of essentially dust. So yeah. So she is sort of untouchable, but she does have daughters who are very touchable, and
Not your best choice of words.
whoops.
Super touchable, guys.
Oh, so touchable, so cute. Wait, anyway, I don't know. Anyways, I'm good. I was thinking of I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It. Anyways, so she has daughters here, and her daughters are just, they're not really known by any special name. They're just Crescia's daughters, and they are large female winged fae. Who resemble a lot like pixies, except they're just normal size, and they often wear the sort of regalia and the colors of the dust court, and they're pretty much like the primary peoples here, besides the few other dust court. The dust court's not really populated as much as some of the other courts are. You know that the courts are divided, at least as far as fae are concerned. There are regular fae, they're just fae, and then there are the court fae. And the court fae are the ones who live in the palaces and who make up sort of the power structures of the courts themselves. And oftentimes in some other courts, like the summer and fall, and that hierarchy, power shifts among it, or inside of it. But in places like the dusk and the dawn court, the power never shifts. It's always been Oberon who's been the king, because, well, no one can do what Oberon does. And that's probably weep into a pile of goo. Weep himself into a pile of goo. Yeah.
It's a tough job.
Yeah, it's a very tough
Somebody's
job.
gotta do it.
Somebody's got to do it. So you arrive at those large double doors, the heavy wooden doors, and Techi just slowly just sort of pink, pink, pink with his fist. And as he knocks on it, the doors just open slowly. And as they do, you are led into an interior, the first sort of foyer, more like throne room. That's where it immediately opens up into, and you see this sort of these sort of large stone floors with like sort of mosaics or like frescoes almost, but they are often broken up in places, and where they're broken up, there's bits of rock and stone and water and grass, little ponds here and there, croaking frogs, things like that, bugs flying through the air. And you see the roots of the world tree. Some are piercing through essentially the ceiling of this cavern and have made their way inside of Fellcyl, and just sort of have the palace itself is built around these things. with these sort of almost skeleton structure like things where the actual stone of the palace is unfinished. And then you see this large stained glass relief or stained glass window, but it's just shining bright and casting this red and orange and like purple glare through it. That this light that just hits the floor and just makes this shape. In the stained glass, it's not really, there's no real image inside of it, except that you're sure if you looked at it long enough, you would see the image or like the history of Oberon or whatever Oberon wants people to see in it.
Probably changes.
And you see, sitting on the throne in front of that stained glass window, you see Oberon himself. And for the moment, his skin takes on this sort of bluish pallor. And his eyes are sort of half-lidded and intently focused on you. And his hair is just this matted mess of just black. And currently he's wearing this sort of feathery collared robe that just hangs and drapes over the chair, and his fingers are just all black with these sort of white, very distinct sharp nails that you can see. And he's just lazily lounging upon his throne, looking at you through half-lidded eyes.
You just start walking up.
Start walking up.
And get fairly close before she sort of stops and like very formally bows.
Oh yeah?
to him.
Okay.
Like,
cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Because if you didn't, you know he gets very temperamental.
Yeah. She probably gets a little bit closer than she should before she bows.
What about...
Like,
Okay. Well, when you cross that threshold, when you get a little closer than you think you should, you see him open his mouth, and it's just like this
and
stretch.
that's just exactly when she goes. Like,
Yeah,
she's just waiting
okay.
for it.
Yeah, it was this exaggerated stretch. Almost, it's inhuman. It doesn't look like any mouth should open that large or in that way. But then as you bow, it slowly closes and then forms into this smile, this half smile.
And she doesn't.
What does Calthena and Gildor do?
I mean, I imagine they probably just stayed back, but that's up.
No, Gildor follows you,
Oh,
and he does not bow.
do I notice that he doesn't bow?
You do.
Tiriel will like stand and turn and look at him.
He looks right back at you, this sort of defiant look in his eyes. And Oberon, you see his mouth go to open again in that temperamental way that it does.
Gildor, as I've said, this place was my home as well. And it is up to you. But I suggest you show it a bare minimum of respect.
We are here to get back to the Merwood, to get back to Lindir. I don't have time. And then that's when Oberon is just like, you will bow in my court! And he just like yells it in his mouth, opens up in that unearthly way. And I need you.
I was gonna step aside.
I still need
All right.
you and Gildor to make me wisdom saving throws.
Okay. That's 8, 9, 10, 11, 13. I think it's the same for his other stats are back here. Oh, his is actually one lower than me. Oh, he did great. I didn't.
Okay, what'd you roll?
I had a 13. He has a 19.
Ooh, so a 15 is what you need to beat.
Yeah.
You, as soon as you hear that, and the voice literally just like feels like it's a shockwave through your body, it literally pulls you to a bow. You extend your arm out front, and you genuflect in the most polite possible way as you are forced to your knees. But Gildor is not. Gildor stands still and firm, and just shakes his head at Oberon. And Oberon, his mouth opens up again in that sort of to wail out in that way, before little Tetchy sort of hobbles up. Says, "Sire, sire, I think we have much more pressing things to attend to, don't you?" And then his mouth closes for a moment. And then he looks to his subject. "Yes. I believe you are correct, Techi. Thank you, my friend." And then Techi says, "Of course, sire." And then he sort of makes his bow, very deep, very humble, bowing so far. And then you sort of feel that magical grasp on you release, and you're allowed to stand back up. And Gildor's just standing there next to you. Eventually, Calthena comes forward, and is sort of just like standing a little off and behind you. Your pseudo dragon sort of perched on her shoulder as well. And yeah, Tiriel, you've come back to me.
For a time, yes.
For a time.
Always only for a short time. Never long enough.
Would you drink? And then you see as he produces that familiar silver goblet that you're all too familiar with. You'll be drinking with me.
I'm going to sort of, as I go by, like, just give Gildor the dirtiest look possible.
Nice.
Just, like, beyond sibling rivalry, like, personally, genuinely disappointed. Like, and walk up.
Gildor, he just looks back at you with that same sort of defiant stare.
Yeah.
In his mind, he's resolved that, you guys have a singular task, and he's not here to play around with the Fae.
Tiriel is, though. And she's gonna sort of walk up and, like, sort of bow and take it. And take a sip.
Okay. And as you do, in the all too familiar fashion that you're used to, he begins to tip the cup and keep tipping it. And it seems to pour endlessly, this sweet, honeyed wine that fills the entirety of your throat and just makes it sort of open in a way to where more is allowed in, more and more. But soon, your stomach begins to churn in a way that's uncomfortable. You're taking on far too much wine, and it's making it a little sour. And you're feeling now the instinctual urge to vomit. And that's when he pulls the cup back, and you catch your breath for a moment. "It is good to see you again."
It's good to see you, too. Just sort of look around the otherwise empty hall. Oberon, it is far too quiet here. There is more sorrow than usual here. You warned me.
Yeah. And you see as his form, slowly, in just the fashion that it does, his hair begins to fall off in clumps and hits the side of his chair and splatter off onto the ground. And they just form these black, almost like ink puddles. And more of him just seems to fall off. And tears now of black are streaming down his face. Says,
Is he still sitting?
He's still sitting, yeah.
Tiriel will sort of, like, sit in front of him. Like, and drop down.
Okay.
And just, like, very, like, humble and listening. Like, just waiting for him to tell. Like,
He sort of, like, shakily offers his hand to you. Like, sort of like an old person would, just sort of offers it, and you instinctually take it, as he begins to talk to you and say...
It's probably what they did a lot of. Tiriel just listened to him wax and wane.
He says, "This is much more different than the usual sorrow. And this time I feel it's real. They've
taken her. And they've taken her daughters. Chrysia, she is gone. Her daughters, they're gone too.
We'll edit that out. I guess they're upset about
Yeah.
that, all the shit's
They're
going
gone!
on. Yeah. And their wings. Their wings are being plucked from their bodies to be used by the elves. And now he's just entire parts of him are just his hand is even melting into yours, and slowly just this black ink is just now puddling between your fingers and just falling to the ground and landing, but you still keep your hand there. You're used to how Oberon works. And that's what he tells you as he is busy falling apart.
I'll sort of like reach out and like take his other hand and just like, I don't understand. Where? What is happening?
And they have taken my sister. They have taken her back to Nyxaris. And they have taken her there to pluck her wings from her body.
Why would...
I believe it is the Dawn Court. I believe it is Titania's plot against me. I believe, well, I know that they are using the wings they have taken from her daughters and the wings they continuously pluck from her body. They are using those as instruments of war.
Tira sort of like just drops her head.
You now feel the blade. This is the most angry it's ever felt. And as it surges with this, there's a smile that appears on Oberon's lips. As his hand slowly regains some of its form. And he goes, I have not seen that blade in such a long time. Rana, is that you? And you feel the blade spark in anger, but also in recognition, much like whenever you pull out the staff.
This is both.
I told you. There's only anguish here. More so than ever before. The Dusk Court is... I fear I am approaching my final death.
No.
This sorrow would kill me. Without Chrysia, without my sister, I don't know what I can do. That's when Calthena pipes up from behind. She says, Oberon, and she sort of gives her a little half bow. She's not quite sure. She's very awkward in this space, and then she lifts herself up again. She says,
Tira just whispers, you'll like her. And she'll sort of like shift aside a little bit.
Okay. Your duskness, is it possible that maybe we could help you in some fashion? And after he hears this, he sort of like, his head dips to the side as if he's like trying to like hear it better. And then his other hand slowly comes back and then now perches on the thing and he pushes himself up. Perhaps.
What would you ask of us? This is... If this is being done by the Dawn Court...
I don't
you
know.
said-
It's the Dawn Wizards.
The ones that control Nixeris.
She's still facing Oberon.
Mm-hmm.
My brother is incredibly rude. And
I can see the resemblance between you two. He reminds me of you.
yes, entirely too similar in a number of ways. Just gonna turn and look at Gildor. For a long moment, and just sort of
Draw it out.
draw it out, and put some pieces together before she says anything, because what do you know about this? And this is not the time to lie to me.
He looks at you and he still has that sort of defiant look back at you, you know? But this time it softens a bit. Like he's relenting. And he says, Father was always outspoken against what the Dawn Wizards were doing, but the other council members, most of them approved of what was happening. The Dawn Wizards are harvesting the daughters of Chrysia and Chrysia herself for these wings that they have, and they're equipping some of the soldiers with them. Despite our losses in the battle, they still mean to attack. Again and again, and this time from the sky. Having an army capable of flight would be fairly potent, and they've been at this for a while. The Dawn Wizards, from what I know, I haven't seen it, I don't approve of it, I've only heard about it, and Father forbid that I use these wings. I think partially because of you and your attachment to this place. But that's why he led ground forces. He sort of chuckles at that. Very bitterly.
Mm-hmm. Hilarious. Funny joke.
But from what I understand, they keep Chrysia and her daughters in a sort of limbo state because the Fae are reborn at the Lapis Tree, but somehow by doing what they do inside the Illuvium, that is how they keep them coming back again and again and perform the same terrible deed on these poor creatures.
You knew.
Yes, but what was I to do? There's nothing I can do about this.
You
Nothing
knew
Father could do about this.
that we would have to find out about this coming here.
I
You
didn't.
did not think to say anything to me.
I didn't know how to tell you.
We cannot let this continue to happen.
I don't know what we're going to do. The elves are going to do it regardless. Maybe you can speak to the council. Maybe you can convince them of reason, of why this barbaric practice should be done away with.
Speak to the council.
But first we must get there. Tiriel, we can't waste time parlaying with Oberon or anyone like him. We need to go. If you're here for passage, get us passage. And that's where he sort of just, his mouth shuts into a firm line. His jaw tightens a little bit. But Oberon sort of straightens up, and you can tell that his attitude's changing. You know, again, he's very mercurial. His moods shift very quickly. And he looks at you and he says, Tiriel, How have my gifts been treating you?
Very well.
Have you been using them?
As much as I can. It is... I miss the shadows here. It's been strange, and it took a while to get used to the sunlight and the shift and the change in seasons. I miss wandering these halls with
Would you care to show me what it is that you have learned?
nods.
He claps as you nod. And as he claps, everything goes pitch black in a way that you can't even see. You're not even sure if you're in the same place anymore. You're not even sure if you're still in Fellcyl or some sort of pocket shadow that Oberon keeps. But you can hear his voice throughout the entire expanse of darkness. And he says, I want you to show me. I want you to show me what it is that you have learned. And as you hear that, he says, and I'll tell you a story in return.
Do I still... So I was right in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
He's not right there anymore.
I mean, you gotta do something to find out.
As if I just step forward. Sort of slide forward one step.
There's nothing there?
As I'm sort of listening, I am going to telepathically see if I can find Miri.
Can't find Miri.
Okay. She was with Kalthena. Then I'm going to activate my Twilight Eyes just because that seems wise. But
Okay.
I assume magical darkness, like before.
Yes.
Okay.
This is magical darkness. You activate your Twilight Eyes, your eyes glow with that same sort of silvery, unearthly glow that they get. And your sort of pupils shift and dilate so that you can take in more darkness than what is normal. What I'd like you to do right now is we're going to roll opposing checks, dexterity checks. For Oberon, I'll add a +5 as if his dexterity is 20 because he's a fake creature. So I will just add a flat 5.
Okay, and I assume I'm just rolling a dex check.
You can roll acrobatics if you'd like.
Okay.
Oh, actually, no, straight dex check as if we're doing initiative. My
Okay.
bad.
That's a 5.
That's a 5 total?
Yeah.
What'd you roll?
I rolled a 2.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, he rolled a 17.
Love it.
So as you go to do anything, you instinctively try to move towards your blade because you feel this strong presence just surge up to you very fast. And as you do so, it's you hear the voice of Oberon like right in your ear. He is right beside you in a flash, and he says, "What I've taught you, you're not using it very well." And then he slaps you on the cheek, just like a light little tap, just boop, and then bamps away. So what would you like to do? What's your plan?
I would like to... I'd like to activate my blade song as well.
Okay.
And...
So you'll need to pull out your weapon, or a weapon.
Do I?
I think to activate blade song.
Oh, it's not in this. I don't have any way to double check it.
You have it written down?
I don't, yeah. I just can't have two hands on a thing. I don't know if I have to have a weapon in hand.
Well, I thought you kind of had to. Well, whatever. We'll say for the purposes of this, you don't have to.
Because what I would like to do
Okay.
is activate that because I am in magical darkness. I'm pulling out a shadow blade. I'm not pulling out a physical blade.
Okay.
So I'll pull out the shadow blade first, actually.
Okay.
Sort of as he flutters away, Tiriel just sort of like reaches for like the place he disappears from, you know, and just casts Shadow Blade and just wraps her hand around the blade she can't even see.
Inky blackness.
Yeah, but she knows is there.
Okay. You feel it as a firm extension of yourself, stretching out about 1.5 feet into the darkness. This short little shadow blade that you now have. You hear him call out again, but this time his voice resounding through the whole entire darkness, and he says, "I'd like to tell you a story of a sister and a brother. The brother was made of sorrow and sadness. The sister was made of the night sky." And then you guys need to roll opposing checks again.
Okay.
Whew!
That's cocked.
That is cocked.
It's cocked.
Logan.
It's almost an 18.
What's your total?
It's a 6.
Mine's a 6.
Oh, nice.
So you guys go at the exact same time.
Oh, cool.
So what would you like to do? You feel him and you catch him for just a moment.
I just want to as I like sort of feel him show up, sort of not with the shadow blade hand, just sort of like catch his face and like pull away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And just like sort of try to like sort of trade, not blows, like we're not really trading blows here.
Touches.
Yes. Just, you know, catch him.
Okay.
Like,
So basically, as you you reach out and you cup his face, and he reaches out and he cups your face at the exact same time, and you hear like a throaty little and then he pulls away again. But roll me a perception test.
okay. I'm rolling a different one. Perception? That's 19.
19?
18.
18.
18.
As he cups your face, you see his arm not come into view. It's still pitch blackness, but you're getting the outline of it now. The outline is coating itself in whatever color you choose based on your twilight eyes. And then finally it goes up to the shoulder before he dips out again. But you're catching a piece of him. He continues.
Can I sort of be circling as he's talking? Like trying to just feet like sliding across the ground, like feeling for things, but moving.
Okay. He says, "The sister, she could fly. The brother, he could only cry. And everyone wanted to know, to ask, to figure out if his sister could teach them how to fly. She shook her head and she said, 'No, no, no. I can't teach you how to fly. Unless, of course, you can make my brother not cry.'" Dexterity check. 21? I got an 18. Okay, so you get to go first this time. What do you want to do?
I guess I want to like move towards wherever like his voice is coming from. And with the shadow blade, so he said he was wearing this sort of like feathered cape. With the blade, I just want to sort of like I don't know, like trim off the feathers on the side of it.
Okay.
Like,
Okay. Go ahead and give me a tech roll.
okay. I don't have disadvantage because I'm in the darkness. I would have advantage in dim light or darkness.
You have
the
advantage.
shadow blade.
Go
Okay.
for it.
11 plus just my, like, wouldn't it be my regular attack for a weapon?
Yeah.
16?
16?
I think it'd be a 16 total.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll say that's good enough. He's not technically wearing any armor, so
It's the AC of the feathers.
his AC would come out to 15 without any armor on, or mage armor. So you throw your blade and it just sort of passes through noiselessly through this sort of darkened expanse as you sort of rushed at him and then hucked it. And you don't hear anything. You sort of strain your ear until you hear just the sort of like soft ruffles of feathers as you nick off a piece. And as you do, and as your blade hits that, go ahead and roll me the perception test.
Nat 20.
For the moment that your blade touches him, you get the entire outline of him. And then that outline moves blindingly fast through the air, and he goes once again to touch your face.
Can I try to catch his hand?
You can. Roll me we're going to do another, this time it can be acrobatics.
Acrobatics? That makes it a 19.
Well, you got a natural 20.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So this time he just sort of lightly just taps you on the forehead, and then you don't get a chance. You almost grab his fingers, but he's too fast. And then he disappears once again. And he begins to tell you more of this story. And he tells you that it wasn't until
As he talks, I'm summoning my Shadow Blade back.
Oh, okay.
So
Got it.
Bonus action.
Yeah. As he tells you of this tale, you're starting to grasp that, of course, his sister is Crescia, and that he is, of course, the boy that cries. But it's sounding like this is sort of like a mythical beginning. That before Oberon was Oberon, he was a boy who could do nothing but cry. And that there was no one who made that better for him until there was one Eladrin, one of the old elves, who finally could get through to Oberon. Not with any sort of sweet talking or anything like that. This character, from what you gather, had a very tough personality. And now, as he sort of gets to this point, starts beginning to talk about this character, but you see him now. Your twilight eyes have the whole outline of him. And he's just now there right in front of you.
Can I use my Basilisk Gaze?
You can.
Okay.
Go for
He's
it.
got to make a save.
What is it?
I'm not sure, actually. That's a great question. I don't apparently have that written
I
down.
think it's your charisma. So it's 8
Oh,
plus proficiency
my
plus
DC.
charisma.
I don't know what kind of save he rolls, though. Do you remember? So it's a 13 is the DC for the Basilisk Gaze.
I think it'd be Constitution.
Sure.
He doesn't have a good Constitution. He's Oberon. He just reduces to puddles of goo all the time. I'll say he's like a +1 for his Constitution.
All right. It's only a 13, so...
Well, he rolled a 3. So 4. This like blinding light comes out from your eyes in this flash. And as that happens, like your eyes for a moment glow, and almost like there are these spectral eyes almost behind you that just appear and then flash in this sort of snake gaze. And you catch him, and his hand was outstretched, going to reach for you, but now he's frozen in place. He goes,
I am go. How far? He's like right in front of me.
yes.
The Basilisk Gaze, that moment didn't give me any sense of the rest of the space. Just him.
Yeah, just him.
Okay.
Yeah, in fact, that light, when it flashed, everything's still dark.
Cool. Yeah, just with the... I'm gonna take that moment that he's... It's technically to the end of my next turn, so I've got a moment. Just sort of step forward and with the... If I can, I don't know if I'm pushing it, with the back, like, sort of swinging the blade around, I want to try to actually cut the, like, ties in the front of the cape off. Like, I want to sort of, like, just... And then go around behind, dash around behind him.
Okay. So,
Just these sort of, like, glancing blows.
gotcha. Yeah. As you just slice and the cloak just... Because, I mean, he's stunned. You can hit him.
Yeah.
And as the cloak, you see... I mean, your vision doesn't track that. you just hear the fluttering of claw as it hits the ground and sort of crumbles into a pile. But what your vision tracks next is these wings that just pop out from his back, and you see these giant, massive wings come out from behind him. You track them in your glow. He says, I see. You have been honing your gifts. Here, let me help you one last time. And then you see the outline of the chalice, and he's offering it to you.
And sort of drops the blade and just sort of into the shadow and takes the chalice.
And then you begin to drink, and he begins to tip it back and tip it back, and you keep drinking. And as you're drinking, he continues to tell you the story of this Dusk Galadrin, this shadow fae, sort of, who got through to him, not by, again, honeyed words. This character was stern. This character was grounded, in a way. This character wasn't like all the other moody Galadrin. This character helped give Oberon purpose and helped convince him that the area before the Dust Court was a thing, before the courts had arranged themselves, back when the Fae were, the court Fae weren't even court Fae. They were just competing powers, competing primordial powers of raw emotion who couldn't hone themselves. She convinced him to take a journey and to do exactly that. And for a long time he cried all along his journey. He left this trail of inky darkness behind him until finally he learned to not cry so much. He's still Oberon, he's still sad, but he lets you know that this Dusk Galadrin, her name was Rana. And then after he finishes telling you that, you need to roll me a Constitution saving throw. All of that wine and stuff, you begin to and spit out as it's just too much for you. It becomes too much for you. However, he keeps forcing it back, and it's just too much. It's just coming out. You're just now spitting it up, and it's just falling down your clothes, and it's just soaking into your robes. And as you're doing that, and as he's doing it, you then feel for a moment like you could possibly die from this. And it's in that moment that you feel your twilight eyes change, and you see him now in this magical darkness. And he pulls away that cup from you. And you just sit there and you're coughing, and all of that water's hitting
all
the ground.
All the way down, like all fours on the ground.
Yeah. And now you're back in Fellcyl. And to what it looked like to... well, actually, you can ask them later what it looked like. But you were now on all fours, just taking in deep breaths, heaving, retching a little bit on the ground. It's not a pretty sight.
No.
And for the moment, you'll have one exhaustion point.
Oh, cool.
Because that was a little too much. But you definitely feel this sort of tingling sensation start from your eyes and trickle into the back of your skull, raising the hairs on the back of your neck. And you can tell that your twilight eyes now are more powerful and can see better than they ever have. And Oberon's there, sort of standing above you, the cup in his hands. And you can see, as you begin to look up, you see that now his form has changed once again. And his face is sort of outlined by this mask, almost, this like black chitinous mask. And he has these sort of beetle-like horns on his head, and this like orange beetle-like carapace that forms like a arm brace. And he is now wearing this sort of black armor and this long flowing black cape that comes out from it. It's elements of like orange and black, and these sort of stag-like, like stag beetle sort of horns that pop out from his shoulders and parts of his back and from the helmet on his head. And he looks down at you and says, Tiriel, why did you come here?
I needed a path. Back to the Merwood.
I know. I will get you that path. I will open the doors to the illuvium for you. I'm afraid I know now what I must do. I'm going to stop hiding. And I'm going to move forward. I'm going to get back my sister. And I will take you with me.
What has been done to her and to her daughters? It's unforgivable, as far as I'm concerned. And that vengeance is not mine to take. But I will do what I can back in the Merwood to get justice for that.
And you feel your moonblade again. This time, the anger that surges through you, though, feels good. It doesn't weigh you down in this moment. It's burning and it's bright. It spreads throughout your shoulders and trickles into your arms, but it feels like a surge of strength. And because you said you would get justice for it, and because the blade is so linked to that concept, we'll say that it instantaneously removes all that feeling of exhaustion that you just felt. It's like a second wind, almost, of just feeling, of raw emotion that courses through.
Tira's probably still, like, on her knees, like, not fully up. She's like,
No, as you feel that, you plant your foot firmly in the ground, and you pull yourself up, standing fully tall. And Oberyn, even though now in this form, with this sort of armor, he's at least a good 2 or 3 feet taller than you. He is a massive creature right now. And he says, "Thank you. It is good to see you again, old friend." And as he says that, you know he's not talking to you. Mm-hmm. And I feel like this is a good spot to leave this session, because it is 9:42. Our bedtime's coming up. And we can continue next week with a pretty fun start onto how things are going to go.
Alright, cool. That was good.
Well, I hope you guys enjoy this episode when it pops up on YouTube.
Wow. Way to finish it out.
Finish strong, guys. Anyways, we will... this new format, we're not streaming anymore, so you'll see this stuff pop up on YouTube. I do hope you check us out. I do hope you, if you enjoyed this stuff, if you enjoyed the story of Tiriel, I really urge you to watch the rest of it. Yeah, I'm super excited about where this is going. Next time we pick up, Tiriel and the gang are headed to Nyxeris, the city of dawn and dusk.
It's good to be back. That was good. That was fun.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.